All right, so last time we talked about digital strategy, the external factors, the external things that you need to look at. So, that's your competition and demographics and target markets and those kind of things. But the next thing that we have to look at, what's going on in your business, is the internal portion, right? And so in the internal portion, there's really four main areas. There's four main areas that we have to look at, right? So when we do this, the first area that we have to look at is business strategies. Business strategies. And a business strategy is realistically it's the means by which a business uses when it sets out to reach the goals that the business has. Okay? So let me simplify that just a second. A lot of people are familiar with the concept of setting goals. Okay? Business strategy is the means by which your business uses in effort to achieve its goals. So think of it as the systems and processes, the tools and those kind of things. What are you going to do to reach your goals? So like I said, a lot of people are familiar with setting goals, right? And again, one of the things that we know about statistics and all that, a person that sets goals is much more likely to be successful than a person who doesn't set goals, right? But goals without an action plan are only a dream, right? It's a daydream. And so when we look at that, when we talk about business strategies, we're talking about the actual action plan itself, right? So when you think about this kind of stuff, this is what you need to know. So when we're looking at external strategies and those kind of things, we start thinking about where am I today, right? As we look at internal strategies, we have to start thinking about where are we going, right? What do we want to accomplish? Because you can know where you are and you can know where you want to be, but that's only half the battle, right? That's only half the scenario. Knowing where I am and where I want to be, it's like a GPS, right? So if I plug in my current location into a GPS and I plug in the destination into a GPS, but there's no satellite signal, what happens? Yeah. Yeah, it's constantly. It's that dreaded just spinning, right? Why are you not working, right? I've actually had that a couple of times. Be out in the middle of nowhere, kind of thing. There's no cell phone service. You use the GPS to get there, and it loaded all the stuff. Now you got to figure out how to get back. Right? It's like, oh man, oh man. We did that. We did that once actually on a vacation. And we were literally in the middle of nowhere. It was Podunksville, Nowheresville. It's like, okay. I drove for 45 minutes before I actually found a gas station, right? To be able to stop at. And praying the entire time they have a road atlas, right? Remember those things? Yeah. Kids these days have no concept of what a road atlas is. Matter of fact, my kids, we get out of the car and we go into this gas station, and it's this little gas station. Well, Dad, what are you doing? There's no cell phone service. Hey, but what are you doing? We're lost. Baby, we're not lost. Or we won't be lost in a minute. Right? Yep. And so, I go in and I get this $13 book. And why are you buying a book, Dad? Right? And so I buy this $13 book and I get it out to the car and I open it up and it's maps, right? It's the road atlas. What is that? Right? The kids these days, right? So understand, children, when you don't have the technology to do what you need to do, you got to find alternate means to do what you need to do, right? And so I told him, I said, this is the how we're going to get to where we need to go, right? So in business goals and those kind of things, that's what we have to do. Sometimes we have a GPS, sometimes we need a road atlas. It's not always easy, in other words. The hardest part for most businesses is looking at setting an ultimate goal. And that's the first question you need to ask in your business strategies. What is your ultimate goal for your business? What do you want to accomplish? Right? Until you ask yourself that, you can never work towards anything. All work that you do is merely spinning its wheels. It's the day-to-day grind of doing something, but not really getting anywhere. Activity does not necessarily equal accomplishment. True that. Right? So what are your ultimate goal for your business? The second question you have to ask is, where am I now in relation to that goal? Where am I now in relation to that goal? So if your ultimate business goal is I'm at $1 million a year, but I need to be at $10 million a year, right? Now I have an origination point and a destination point. But the third question then becomes the next most important thing. What do you need? What do you need to get to that goal? Right? It's a $9 million question actually in that scenario. Right? What do you need to reach that ultimate goal? And that's the hard part for a lot of people. That's where consultants sometimes come in. That's where guys like us oftentimes will come in that, is to say, here's where I am, here's where I need to be. What's the difference? And the challenge is in that difference lies a step-by-step action plan. Right? Now, unfortunately, we live in this microwave society where people want instantaneous results, and they want to say, I'm at $1 million today, I need to be at $10 million tomorrow, effectively. Right? And so they have unrealistic expectations of certain things and how certain things should work. So that's why you have to ask yourself that question, what do I need in order to be able to achieve that goal? Because I have to be able to set realistic expectations of those needs. I may have needs, matter of fact, we have needs to reach my ultimate goal. We have needs that are not necessarily within our capacity at the moment. Means I have to do things before that can become within our capacity, right? And so it's like a set of stairs. You don't just take off running at the bottom of a set of stairs and take a flying leap and get to the top of the stairs. Most of the time you're going to fall on your face. If you do take a flying leap and stand at the top and get to the top of the stairs, most of the time you're not going to be in balance, right? So it's that step-by-step process that we have to go through, and that's why I need to determine what my needs are in order to be able to get there. And then the fourth question in this business strategy is, how can you get what you need efficiently? Efficiently. All right? That's the key word. There are lots of ways to get things that you need. Not all those ways are efficient. Not all those ways are recommended. I was having a conversation with somebody a few weeks back. He said, David, I need to get from here to here. I said, okay, well, what do you feel like you need to get there? And then he said, I'm going to need investors. I said, okay, do you understand that by taking on investors in this, they're going to take the majority of your business. They're going to take ownership of the vast majority of your business. You're going to lose ownership and control. Do you want to lose ownership and control? Well, no, I don't. Then don't take on investors. You need to think about alternate strategies. It may take you a little longer, right? But ultimately, alternate strategies will get you to where you need to be without having to give up ownership and control, right? And so this is where we have to think about, how can I get what I need efficiently? Right? The second thing that we have to review internally is resource allocation. Resource allocation. What do you think I mean by resource allocation? Okay.
Being able to put the right personnel in to make them be fully initiated and active.
Okay. Resources has two parts. Okay. So current resources, and yes, we're talking about the resources that you have now, it has two parts. So resources are what are you spending currently on people and tools? Right? What are you currently spending on people and tools? And so we look at these kinds of things, right? Lots of times for businesses, one of the first answers is I need to hire more people. Need to hire more people. But that's not always the answer. Matter of fact, you were able to accomplish for effectively a one-time investment what a staff member was doing, thereby eliminating the need for that particular staff member, right? So a one-time investment saved you yearly investments.
She's looking for a job right now.
She's looking for a job right now. Yeah. And so, in doing that, that's what we have to look at is what do we need people-wise, what do we need tools-wise? And oftentimes, one of the things that we have to review is, can I utilize tools that I needed people in the past to do, right? So when we look at this resource allocation, what we have to think about is, what am I currently spending, right? That's question number one. What am I currently spending in total? In other words, how much are my total business expenses on people and tools? Allocation becomes where you put your money, right? And by the way, it's how much am I currently spending plus also how much do I have budgeted for, right? So currently spending assumes a budget, right? So if I'm looking at hiring someone else, one of the questions I have to ask myself is, should I hire this person? Could I outsource this more efficiently? Or is there a tool that I could purchase that would do all of it without the need for that? Right? This is where we're looking at resource allocation. And so, when we think about these things, we have to look at, what are our returns on our investment. And sometimes it gets frustrating because every now and then we have to look at staff and say, I'm not getting a return off this person, right? Now, not every role in an organization is for a direct ROI. Many roles have indirect ROI, right? So if I'm saying I'm not getting a return off this person, what I'm more talking about not is directly am I making sales from this person. It's, is this person the best person for the role that they're in currently? Right? Based on my needs for that role, are those needs being met? What if they're not?
It doesn't work.
Train
Replace them or train them.
Replace them or train them. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we first start with training. And if training doesn't work, it's a replacement, right? So you have to think about that kind of stuff. Now, what I would do if I were you is I would make myself a little chart, right? And if I'm making a little chart, it's going to kind of look like this right here. And it's going to have a series of lines. And you're going to have tools up here, and you're going to have name over here. Okay? Now, in this chart, you're going to have something that looks like this. Right? So these are the tools that we use in the business. These are the tools that I'm paying for. These are the humans in the business, right? And this is what I'm paying for. And so the question is ultimately, what person is responsible for what tool? What person is responsible for what tool? And that's how I can begin to think about this kind of stuff, right? It gives me a great indication. So I'm looking at here, I'm looking at name. I'm also looking at role and monthly cost. Tools, I'm looking at what's the tool and what's the monthly cost, right? Yeah, and so that'll help us determine this is where we're at. And then I need to look at what's the efficiency of what I'm doing in this particular area, right? So, as I mentioned earlier, Pat was able to replace, we developed some software actually that was ultimately gave Pat the capacity for a one-time expense, in essence, it gave him the capacity to remove an entire role that had an annual expense associated with it, right? And so it's kind of funny because over the years, it's one of the things that we've done is in working with businesses, especially beginning to help scale these things, you'll see people go from few or no employees to a lot more employees, and then they start scaling back on the number of employees when you can afford the tools that may have a larger cost, but it's more of a larger one-time cost or a smaller recurring cost, right? But so staff sometimes goes up and then staff goes back down when you're building efficiencies over time, right? So these are the kinds of things that we have to look at. And it goes back to a portion of this. What are the things that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing, right? And that's where this is where I am currently. So one of the things that I had to do many years ago was I had to sit down. As a matter of fact, it's about time for me to do it again. I had to sit down and look at and evaluate, this is everything I'm doing. Matter of fact, I created a time management worksheet that I use. And for a solid week, I wrote down every single thing that I did. Right? It sucked. It really did. But I wrote down everything that I did. Right? And so at the end of the week, I started compiling all of that. And I compiled it all into a list of these are the things that I'm doing on a regular basis, right? And so years ago, what I did was I compiled that list and I actually laminated it. And I took it to my next staff meeting, right? And I showed my staff the list and I said, these are the things that I'm doing currently. I shouldn't be doing all of these things. Please initial by which of these things you're going to start doing, right? And my staff actually took 80% of the items off the list. Right? Which is cool.
You served it up and gave them the option to choose.
Yeah, I let them choose. The reason why I let them choose, because some people look at certain things and they say, oh, I could do that. That would be easy. Or, I would enjoy that. Some of them, and that was what some of them said, was I would like to do that. I would like to handle this.
Kind of like your commitment at church when you say what you want to participate in.
Yeah, it's a lot like that. It's you're choosing at what you want to participate in. And what I actually found that a number of the staff members at that particular time actually enjoyed their job better because they got to pick some of their own roles and duties, and so some of those things they would take more seriously, and so it worked out very well for me. And of the things that were left on there, my next thought process is, what of this stuff can I outsource, right? What of it can I buy tools that can help handle stuff for me so I'm not having to do it myself, right? And then I went back and reviewed this after time. What person, what role, what cost, what tools, right? What are they doing and how efficient is it? And I actually ended up downsizing my staff because there were tools that were available, there were things that were available out there that cost me significantly less than the staff, right? So it gave me that particular thought process in all of this. And so that's where, when we're looking at resource allocation, and by the way, a lot of this is that in order to reach that ultimate goal that we have, you're not necessarily going to do it doing the same things the same way that you've always been doing things, right? Yeah. So you've got to change things around from time to time in order to hit these goals and look at what things are working, what things aren't working. By the way, what things are working that aren't going to get you closer to that goal? It's a conversation Kevin and I had a year ago. one of the services that we used to offer and promote made money, but we stopped offering it. And the reason why we stopped offering it was because of the simple fact that we have a goal up here, and even though that was making money, it wasn't actually getting us any closer to that particular goal, right?
So in that case, then David, do you consider bringing it back and lowering the goal?
Nope.
Okay. I was just thinking if it was profitable, maybe the goal was set too far out at the time.
Just because something is profitable now doesn't mean that it's going to help you reach an ultimate business goal.
Okay, so that's
Right.
where I look at that for how.
And yeah, and my ultimate business goal, by the way, is not all about profitability. It's not it's not about money.
Yeah, I understand, yeah,
Right.
gotcha.
It's not about just
There's a
money.
lot of things that Rich goes.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of things that reach goals. I mean, and put it in perspective. I was in a position at age 20. Okay, at age 20, I was in a position where I never had to work again. I had 2 businesses at the time: Nifty Designs, Worldwide Marketing. Worldwide Marketing make a lot of money, and this, that, and the other. Had at least thought I had at that particular point. Had enough money in the bank that I would never have to work again. This, that, and the other. But through bad business partnership, embezzlement, so on and so forth, all that money disappeared. Right. So crap. So I reset my goal. My reset goal was, okay, by the time I'm 30, right, I want to be in a position to where I can retire and never have to work again, and all. And I'm saying that doesn't mean that I'm not ever going to work again, right?
It's just you want to be in that situation.
I want to be in a situation. My goal was to be in a situation where I had passive things that were generating enough income that I did not have to worry about my bills being paid on a monthly basis. And so by 30, I actually hit that again, right? And so again, that was one of those things where my bills weren't being paid. And so a few years ago, there was a bad situation that popped up, and this, that, and the other, and had a bunch of money was stolen, and this, that, and the other, and some things were destroyed, and all that. And so I kind of said, okay, well, what do I want to accomplish, right? And my ultimate goal. So I had 2 parts to my ultimate goal, by the way, at age 30. Right? So the one part was to be in a financial situation where I didn't have to work. I work because I want to, not because I have to, right? And I'm blessed to be in that position today. I don't have to do much. I could park my butt at home all day long and do what I want to do from home and not have to worry about things. So I have worked. I say I'm very blessed, and I have worked my butt off to get that blessing. Okay? And so that being said, I've never had anything given to me in my life, right? But as I have grown over the years, my ultimate goal has changed, right? And so my ultimate goal, especially as I reach some of these goals, my ultimate goal now is as I build businesses, is to find the people that I can bless with the opportunity to take partnership in these businesses, right? So they can have the opportunity to achieve what I've achieved, but they have to do the same thing that I did and you're going to work your butt off to do it, right? But you'll get there, right? And so that has been my ultimate goal for several years. And matter of fact, my real goal right now is I want to be there in the next 4 years. To be able to say I have 9 businesses with partners. I have 13 businesses with partners. I have whatever. We got 13 currently. I'd like to have all 13. But with partners that are running day-to-day operations of these kind of things, so I can step out and continue to build and grow, right? Invest and make opportunity. And so my goal is less make opportunity for myself. It's now make opportunity for others, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that just don't want to work. And so I've had turnover in my organizations in the past from people who say they want something, but they don't do it, right? Right. Or they're not spending the time or the effort or whatever. Matter of fact, we had to let go somebody in our marketing company recently. And that was the thing. It's like you say you want this, but you're not doing anything for it. And I'm not as interested in somebody who I can bring in that knows everything about everything. I'm way more interested in attitude than I am in skill set. 'Cause higher attitude, everything else can be taught, right? And so that's why I do this regularly, right? Because it helps me determine where are we going, what are we doing, right? The third thing is organizational schemes. Organizational schemes is more about asking the questions about money and internal systems, right? Where's your money going? Which of your people are in charge of which systems? What you end up finding in this is that one person may be in charge of too many things, okay? One person may not be in charge of enough things. You often will find in this kind of stuff that and it's true, by the way, of almost every smaller business, you get an owner that's wearing too many hats, right? And so what happens oftentimes is an owner wears too many hats and he gets to the point where he's ready to hire somebody because he's wanting to take a little bit off his plate. And so what happens is he ends up hiring somebody and dumping all those hats onto that other person. And by the way, I say he gender neutrally for you ladies. But he ends up dumping all this stuff onto somebody else and is like, here, you take care of it. And in many cases, they don't really know what they're doing. So things tend to go backwards. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the owner that expects you to handle all of the customer service issues, all of the books and bookkeeping, handle the accounting related issues, the tax related issues. So you're handling all the financial systems, you're handling all the customer service systems, you're handling all of the business organizational systems, and so on and so forth. You got one person that you're pushing to handle everything all at once. When the business owner needs to realize that pushing all of that onto one person is going to ultimately end up overloading that one person. So what you lose in that more often than not is the capacity to actually grow with that person. Skills versus strengths. Absolutely. And so in many cases too, what they don't realize is that there are a lot of things that you could outsource cheaper than what you would have to pay a full-time staff member for, right? It's one of my arguments constantly. Dude, outsource your accounting. And it's not just because of the fact that I own an accounting company, right? Even though there's probably a little selfishness in that, right? It's the fact that if you're doing it, you can't do something else to grow your business. If you're worried about entering receipts into QuickBooks, the time that you're spending doing that is something else you can't spend growing your business. If you have somebody working for you that can make phone calls or talk to prospective customers and bring in more business, but they're dealing with all your Walmart receipts and junk over here, then you are strangling your business, right? So you have to look at that organizational schemes, and that organizational schemes oftentimes tells us, what do I need to outsource? What do we need to stop doing? Let's pay somebody else to do it. What do we need to stop doing so we can focus on the core needs of the business? Right? As a business owner, one of the things that I tell people all the time is you have one thing that you really need to worry about. It's called RGAs. That's the main thing that you need to worry about. RGAs. RGA stands for revenue generating activities. Okay? Customer service, by the way, falls into RGAs. Because if you're going to retain customers, right, you have to have good customer service. And if customers are continuously paying you for things, then you have to have that service. So there's lots of things that fall into RGAs. There are lots of things that don't fall into RGAs. Okay? Making sure that you have toilet paper in your bathrooms. That's not an RGA. Okay? Running around to Sam's and picking up things and all that kind of stuff. That's not an RGA. Okay?
What was it?
Activities. Revenue generating activities. So some questions I need to ask myself in the organizational scheme is, is there anyone in charge of more than two things? Right? These are the first people I have to review. Right? If the answer is yes, who is it and what are they in charge of? By the way, this little tool right here helps you with this. Right? Second question I ask is, who can be moved from where they are in order to help the person or people from the previous question? Who can be moved from where they are? This also leads us into who can we put in the role to handle this so somebody else doesn't have to.
You know, this, when you say who can be moved to help the person above.
Who can be moved? So the question realistically comes is, if I have an organization that I've got 10 employees, not all 10 of those employees are going to be efficient. Okay, it's almost never the case.
Right.
Not all of those people, matter of fact, rarely are all of those people working in their areas of strength. And so that's realistically what we're trying to determine. Who's overloaded with stuff? Who doesn't have enough to do? Right? And then if I'm looking at all this, who do I have? What are they assigned to? And then where do their strengths and weaknesses fall in this? And what can I do to move these people around to be much more efficient? Efficiency reduces friction. Efficiency reduces friction. Okay? All right, the fourth area that I need to look at is key decision makers. Key decision makers. And again, this is pretty straightforward. Who in your business has the final say? And depending on the business itself, you may have one person, you may have several people. Right? In other words, the question becomes is, who have I empowered to be able to make decisions on things? Have I empowered someone to be able to make decisions on things? Right? So for my staff, a lot of my staff are empowered to make decisions on a lot of things. Okay. Now, oftentimes they will come to me and say, David, what do you think? And my answer usually is, what would you do? What do you suggest? What are your thoughts? Right? And more often than not, I'll go with that, unless I know it to be a blaring mistake. More often than not, I'll say, let's do that. Right? Because if the goal is to put people who are strong in a particular area in charge of something, then give them the ability, empower them to make decisions in that if they're already strong in it. Why would I be making decisions in an area that I maybe have hired somebody because I'm weak in that area? Why do I want to make those decisions? I don't. Because I'm going to have the tendency to make the wrong decision. Right? So in other words, Mr. or Mrs. Control Freak, let go.
Yeah. That's what he's saying, Mr.
Right?
Control Freak.
Yeah. And most business owners are.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's the hardest part is letting go. But what they often don't realize, what we often don't realize in that area is that your inability to let go is the same thing as a stranglehold around the throat of your business. You cannot scale a business. You cannot reach that ultimate goal as long as you have a stranglehold around the throat of your business. It's not possible. So you have to ask yourself the question, who are the key decision makers and what are the roles? And if when you honestly answer that question, if you say, I'm the key decision maker in everything, then you have people, there's a problem. And that tells you need to let go. And by doing all of this, then what you've now determined is where am I internally, right? So we already know externally. Now we know internally. Where am I internally, right? Where do I want to go with the business? What are the steps necessary to get there? What tools do I need? And what people do I need? Right? And so I may say, this may be Pat here, and we got Mike here, and we got Christian here, and we've got Anastasia here, and we've got David here, and we've got all of this kind of stuff. Just because the name and the role, by the way, just because it's a name and a role doesn't always make it a W-2 employee, right? Understand that if you're a business and you have multiple people that are doing things for you, or organizations, that's a name and a role, right? And this helps us determine where are our needs. Where are our needs? And then I can go back and have the conversation of what do we need to do to expand in this particular area for areas that need expansion based on our goals, right? We say, but the title of this thing is digital strategy. So what does all this have to do with digital strategy?
Having the right digital processes in place can help be some of the tools that you use to replace people.
Yeah.
The right ones to run it.
The key here is that I need to do a full assessment of my business in order to be able to determine what digital tools, digital marketing, digital growth opportunities, what of these things can I utilize in my business to help efficiency in my business, right? And sometimes, by the way, this is more than just marketing, right? This is business wide, okay? Sometimes it's something as simple as getting an app like Todoist, right? To help you keep track of all the stuff that you have to do on a regular basis. Having Google Calendar, which is what we use in our organizations, Google Calendar to be able to track where's everybody's schedules at and what do we got going on, right? But I can't do all that until I know what's going on. Because trying to implement tools without knowing realistically where I am oftentimes leads to more frustration than it does efficiency. So do this and then we'll be ready for next steps.